Welcome back to Thriller Nights, where we delve deep into the most chilling true crime stories from around the world. Tonight, we have a story that will send shivers down your spine. It's the tale of a man who turned the open roads of America into his hunting ground. A story of abduction, torture, and murder that spanned across miles of highways. I'm talking about none other than Robert Ben Rhoades, infamously known as the truck stop killer. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our loyal subscribers for your ongoing support. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the like button, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to join our growing community of true crime enthusiasts. Now, sit back, turn down the lights, and prepare to be captivated by the chilling account of the truck stop killer. Robert Ben Rhoades was a man who embodied the darker side of the American dream. As a long-haul trucker, he traveled extensively across the country, but behind his seemingly ordinary profession lay a monstrous secret. For years, Rhoades used his truck as a mobile torture chamber, abducting hitchhikers, torturing them, and eventually killing them. Tonight, we'll explore the life and crimes of Rhoades, from his unsettling early years to his horrific exploits on the open road, and finally, to the investigation that led to his capture. This is the story of the truck stop killer, a man whose evil deeds have left an indelible mark on true crime history. Robert Ben Rhoades was born on November 22, 1945, in Council Bluffs, Iowa. His childhood, like many serial killers, was marked by instability and trauma. His father, a soldier, was often absent, and his mother struggled to provide a stable home environment. The young Rhoades grew up in a fractured family, which laid the foundation for his later deviant behavior. As a child, Rhoades was described as introverted and withdrawn. He showed little interest in social activities and instead preferred to spend his time alone, often displaying unusual and disturbing behavior. These early signs were a prelude to the darkness that would come to define his adult life. Rhoades' troubles continued into adolescence. He struggled academically and had frequent run-ins with the law. Petty thefts and acts of vandalism soon escalated to more serious offenses. In his teenage years, Rhoades was arrested multiple times for various crimes, including burglary and assault. His brushes with the law only deepened his sense of alienation and resentment towards society. In 1964, at the age of 19, Rhoades joined the Marine Corps, hoping to find structure and purpose. However, his military career was short-lived. After a series of disciplinary issues, he was dishonorably discharged, further cementing his downward spiral. This discharge marked a significant turning point, pushing him deeper into a life of crime and depravity. Following his discharge, Rhoades drifted through a series of jobs and relationships, none of which provided the stability or satisfaction he sought. His marriages were tumultuous, marked by allegations of domestic violence and abuse. It was during this period that Rhoades began to explore his darker fantasies, developing a fascination with sadism and control. In the late 1970s, Rhoades found a job that suited his itinerant lifestyle, long-haul trucking. The open road provided him with a sense of freedom and anonymity, allowing him to travel vast distances without attracting much attention. However, it also provided him with something far more sinister: the perfect cover for his growing desire to inflict pain and suffering on others. As Rhoades settled into his new career, he began to frequent truck stops and rest areas across the country. These places became his hunting grounds, where he could easily find vulnerable victims. The transient nature of the trucking lifestyle meant that he could abduct and dispose of his victims without leaving a trace, moving on to the next town or state without raising suspicion. Join me as we delve into the dark descent of Robert Ben Rhoades, as he transforms from a troubled individual into one of America's most feared serial killers. We'll explore the grisly details of his crimes and the chilling methods he used to terrorize his victims. Stay with us on Thriller Nights as we continue unraveling the terrifying tale of the truck stop killer. Rhoades' transformation into the truck stop killer began in the late 1980s. He started targeting young women who were hitchhiking or stranded at truck stops. His approach was deceptively simple. He offered them a ride, a gesture of kindness that quickly turned into a nightmare. Once his victims were in the cab of his truck, Rhoades revealed his true nature. He had converted the sleeper cab of his truck into a mobile torture chamber, equipped with chains, handcuffs, and various instruments of pain. His victims, initially relieved to have found a ride, soon found themselves trapped in a world of unimaginable horror. Rhoades' modus operandi was as methodical as it was brutal. He would restrain his victims, subjecting them to prolonged periods of torture and psychological torment. The truck, which should have been a symbol of freedom and movement, became a prison where his victims faced their final moments in terror and pain. One of his earliest known victims was Regina K. Walters, a 14-year-old girl whose tragic end provided a glimpse into the horrific reality of Rhoades' crimes. Walters and her boyfriend, Ricky Lee Jones, were hitchhiking when they encountered Rhoades. While Jones was quickly dispatched, Rhoades kept Walters alive for an extended period, torturing and photographing her in various states of distress before ultimately taking her life. Robert Ben Rhoades was not just any serial killer. He was a methodical predator with a chilling modus operandi that involved a terrifying combination of physical and psychological torture. His primary targets were hitchhikers, runaways, and young women who found themselves at truck stops, often alone and vulnerable. Rhoades' modus operandi was as calculated as it was brutal. His method began with the offer of a ride, a seemingly innocuous gesture that would soon turn into a nightmare. Once inside his truck, victims would quickly realize that they were not just passengers but captives in a mobile prison. The sleeper cab, hidden behind the facade of an ordinary truck, was a meticulously prepared torture chamber, equipped with handcuffs, chains, and a variety of tools designed to inflict pain. It was here that Rhoades would exert his dominance over his victims. He used this confined space to his advantage, ensuring that his victims had no means of escape. Rhoades' approach was terrifyingly methodical. After abducting his victims, he would restrain them in his truck, using handcuffs or chains to ensure they could not escape. The psychological torment began almost immediately. Victims were isolated, stripped of their freedom, and subjected to a relentless cycle of physical and emotional abuse. Rhoades took pleasure in their suffering, using various implements to inflict pain and fear. His goal was not just to kill but to break his victims completely, to strip away their humanity and leave them in a state of utter despair. One of the most haunting aspects of Rhoades' crimes was his use of photography. He would force his victims to pose for a series of grotesque and dehumanizing photographs, capturing their terror and despair on film. These images, later found by investigators, serve as a chilling testament to the horror he inflicted. They reveal a man who derived pleasure not just from the act of killing, but from the prolonged agony of his victims. Rhoades' method of operation allowed him to evade detection for years. His use of the trucking industry's vast and anonymous network enabled him to travel across state lines, making it difficult for law enforcement to track his movements or connect the dots between his crimes. He would often pick up victims in one state and dispose of their bodies in another, complicating efforts to link the cases. The transient nature of his victims, many of whom were runaways or hitchhikers, further hindered the investigation, as these individuals often went unnoticed for long periods before anyone realized they were missing. One of his most notorious crimes involved Regina K. Walters, a 14-year-old girl whose tragic fate has become synonymous with Rhoades' reign of terror. Walters and her boyfriend, Ricky Lee Jones, were hitchhiking when they encountered Rhoades. After murdering Jones, Rhoades kept Walters alive for an extended period, subjecting her to unimaginable torture. He photographed her in a series of chilling images, capturing her terror and despair before finally ending her life. These photographs, later discovered by police, provided a stark and horrifying insight into the mind of the truck stop killer. The arrest of Robert Ben Rhoades marked the beginning of the end for one of America's most elusive serial killers. It was a routine traffic stop in Arizona in 1990 that finally brought him to justice. On that fateful day, a state trooper pulled over Rhoades' truck for a minor traffic violation. What he discovered would lead to the unraveling of a complex and horrifying case. As the officer approached the truck, he heard faint cries for help coming from inside. His investigation revealed a scene of horror. A young woman, handcuffed and in a state of shock, was trapped in the sleeper cab. She had been abducted by Rhoades and subjected to days of torture. Her rescue was a pivotal moment, providing crucial evidence that would eventually link Rhoades to a series of unsolved murders across the country. The arrest led to a broader investigation that uncovered a pattern of grisly crimes spanning multiple states. As law enforcement officers began to delve into Rhoades' past, they found a chilling trail of evidence. The photographs he had taken of his victims, the items he had collected as trophies, and the detailed accounts from survivors painted a gruesome picture of a man who had spent years preying on the vulnerable. The evidence against Rhoades was overwhelming. Investigators found disturbing photographs of Regina K. Walters among his possessions, along with numerous other items that linked him to a series of disappearances and murders. Each piece of evidence told a story of unimaginable cruelty and suffering, adding to the growing body of proof that Rhoades was indeed the truck stop killer. As the investigation continued, authorities began to connect Rhoades to a string of unsolved cases involving hitchhikers and young women who had disappeared near truck stops. The sheer scale of his crimes became apparent, revealing a calculated and remorseless killer who had exploited his position as a truck driver to commit his atrocities. The evidence gathered from his truck and personal belongings provided a detailed and damning record of his activities, allowing law enforcement to build a strong case against him. Rhoades' arrest and the subsequent investigation brought a sense of closure to many families who had been searching for answers. His capture highlighted the importance of vigilant law enforcement and the need for greater awareness of the dangers faced by vulnerable individuals on the open road. It also underscored the horrific potential for evil that can exist behind the facade of normalcy. In 1992, Rhoades was convicted of the murder of Regina K. Walters and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Additional charges for other murders followed, ensuring that he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. The trial brought to light the full extent of his depravity, revealing a man who had spent years inflicting pain and suffering on innocent victims. It also served as a grim reminder of the dangers lurking on the highways of America, where a seemingly ordinary truck driver could hide a monstrous secret. The case of Robert Ben Rhoades, the truck stop killer, remains one of the most chilling examples of serial murder in American history. His ability to evade capture for so long, combined with the brutality of his crimes, has left a lasting impact on the true crime community. His story serves as a stark warning about the potential for evil that can exist behind the most ordinary of facades. The capture and conviction of Robert Ben Rhoades brought an end to a nightmarish chapter in American crime history. But the repercussions of his crimes have continued to resonate, both for the families of his victims and for the broader true crime community. The sheer brutality of Rhoades' actions, coupled with the methodical way he carried out his crimes, has left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness. The survivors and the families of the victims have struggled to find closure in the wake of Rhoades' arrest. The traumatic impact of his crimes cannot be overstated. For many, the wounds inflicted by his heinous acts will never fully heal. The horrifying details that emerged during the investigation have haunted those connected to the case, serving as a grim reminder of the depths of human depravity. In the years following his conviction, Rhoades has remained a figure of morbid fascination. True crime enthusiasts, authors, and documentary filmmakers have delved into his story, attempting to understand the psychology behind his actions and the factors that led to his transformation into the truck stop killer. His case has been studied in criminal psychology courses and has been the subject of numerous books and television programs, each exploring the dark intricacies of his life and crimes. The story of Robert Ben Rhoades also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly mundane activities. The image of the open road as a symbol of freedom and adventure has been tainted by the realization that it can also be a hunting ground for predators like Rhoades. His ability to exploit the vast and anonymous nature of the trucking industry highlights the need for increased awareness and vigilance. Law enforcement agencies have used the lessons learned from the Rhoades case to improve their methods for tracking and apprehending serial killers who operate across state lines. The case underscored the importance of communication and cooperation between different jurisdictions, leading to better coordination and information sharing among law enforcement agencies. This has helped to create a more effective network for tracking and capturing individuals who commit crimes in multiple states. The legacy of Robert Ben Rhoades is one of horror and tragedy, but it has also led to important changes in how law enforcement approaches cases involving transient individuals and multiple jurisdictions. The improvements made in the wake of his arrest have undoubtedly saved lives and brought a measure of justice to the victims of other serial killers. Today, Robert Ben Rhoades remains incarcerated, serving multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. He is a man who, for years, used his position as a truck driver to commit unspeakable acts of violence and terror. The story of the truck stop killer is a dark chapter in the annals of true crime, a chilling reminder of the evil that can hide behind the most ordinary of facades. As we conclude this harrowing tale, we remember the victims of Robert Ben Rhoades and all those whose lives have been touched by his crimes. Their stories remind us of the importance of vigilance, justice, and the need to confront and understand the darkest aspects of human nature. Thank you for joining us on Thriller Nights for this in-depth look at the chilling story of Robert Ben Rhoades, the truck stop killer. We hope you found this exploration as gripping as it was disturbing. If you did, please take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating true crime stories. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more tales from the dark side of human nature. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, the truth is often stranger and more terrifying than fiction. This is Greg, signing off from Thriller Nights.